Ooh, oh, hey, how you guys doing? I found some dielectric grease. Anyhow, episode 4, Tales from a Technician. Now we're gonna move along a little bit, just kind of move things along. And I did a lot of bad things, so I really don't want to talk about them. But I'm going to talk about some of them because it's pertinent to the story. My head was, like I was saying, my head was getting bigger and got in trouble, lost my driver's license for 30 days. It wasn't that big a deal, but it was. Did kind of get myself straightened around to where it's still working there at Palmer Dodge, City West. Got to where I buy myself a house, believe it or not. So at 21 years old, I think, started working on doing that, and bought the house from a friend of the channel's, Bill Andrews. He's in one of the MGA videos. Really good guy, still around. We're still good, tight buddies, and we were good buddies then. You know, one of the body guys that used to like to go over and hang out and watch what he did and ask questions and bug him to death. You know, but I could fix some alignments for him. You know, so got the house bought, and first time home house buyers program thing or whatever. Yeah, then don't you know, I met a woman. Not the woman's fault, my fault, and pretty much screwed up everything. I was with, it was somebody that I did not need to be with, never should have been with, and never ever, no, it ruined me. I gave up everything. I lost everything. And got in trouble again. Imagine that. So, in the midst of getting in trouble, lost my license again for much longer. I believe I stayed out of jail time somehow, other than the time served kind of thing. Well, come to find out, the owner of Palmer Dodge City West found out that I didn't have a driver's license. My boss at that time was Butch White. Harry McDaniel had retired, but he was still there every day to be porter, and drove the golf cart so the customers could get to their cars. He'd drive, you know, that kind of thing. So Harry was my buddy. He was still there, you know. But at that time, of course, the owner, Don Palmer, wanted to fire me. He had right. Butch White stuck up for me. The thing is I didn't know it at the time that Butch White stuck up for me. They had this big thing where you're firing him, and it was a big thing for Butch. I think way more than I ever knew. And Butch and I, in the end of this whole deal, ended up being pretty good friends, really. But being, had this house and I lost it and lost everything, and I couldn't take responsibility for any of it because, head was this big. I was getting my own way, couldn't make any money, and blamed everything and everybody else besides myself. So I quit. Worked for a little repair shop down in Greenwood, and I was familiar with it because my uncle took all his cars there, and I'd got a couple cars from there that he didn't want to pay for them to fix it, and I'd get the cars, take them home, and I'd fix them. So talk to them, they're like, yeah, come on down and all that. Well, the thing is that at the time, I wasn't aware necessarily that I didn't have a driver's license. I had the license. Here it is. They made a copy of it, right on. You're good to go. Okay. Well, they found out through half of my first day, I didn't have a driver's license, in fact, and they fired me on the spot. No job. Nope. I'm like, well, that's impossible. I've got it right here. Nope. You lied to us. We can't trust you. You're out. Load your stuff. And I did. Tail between my legs, called back, Palmer Dodge, talked to Butch. Old Butch said, nope, we don't need you. Nope. And he was right. I deserved it. So I went to a little place that, another Chrysler dealership, Chrysler Jeep dealership, that was actually right across the street from the house where I lived in high school, and my mom and dad still lived in that house at that time. Went there, walked in, and I was kind of familiar and kind of knew the service manager, Jamie Buis. Said, hey, and of course I went downtown and figured out the dumb thing to have my license be good again, which, took about an hour of my time. I just didn't know. I was a dumb kid, just didn't pay attention, check the mail, that sort of thing. 22 years old, already bought a house, lost everything. So, get my driver's license back, I start working for Kennedy Chrysler on Pike Plaza Road and Muller Road, right where I grew up when I was in high school. Worked there for a good while. Maybe not even quite a year, and I get a phone call from somebody at old Palmer Dodge. Hey, you just need to come back. You need to come back here and work. Okay. I got a bit of a raise out of it. Went back to work. Quit there at Kennedy. And I like Jamie as a manager, and he was a good buddy, good drinking buddy. So I always kind of wondered what happened to him, but I haven't been able to track him down, so I don't know. Went back to Palmer Dodge, went back to working, realized that the person I was still with at that time was just not good for me. It was bad. It was bad. I'm going to stay out of the personal relationship stuff for another time, but it was bad. And I left. Well, had another girlfriend right after that, while the other girl still had my dog. So a friend of mine had told her that, yeah, he's got a new girlfriend over there, And so the day I went over to get my dog, she said, no, I'm keeping the dog. I ended up having to steal my own dog back. And once I did that, it was the what do you call them? Stalker. Yeah. She'd follow me after work, try to find out where I was living, so she could call the cops and go, there's a dog he stole from me. That was his own dog. So this other girlfriend of mine was going to start working in southern Indiana, Columbus, Indiana. It's kind of funny how you end up where you end up. And I'm going to tell you why here in just a second. She started working down at Columbus Dodge Nissan in Columbus, Indiana. And I would visit and all that. She's like, well, you should get a job down here. We can get a place together. And because in Indianapolis, I didn't have anything. I was getting stalked on a regular basis. So sure. Talked to my buddy Jeff. Still in contact with him. He's a good dude. Really good dude. We were good friends. Started working in Columbus, Indiana. Found me a little trailer. Rented off a friend's uncle. Little trailer in a place called Country Squire Lakes. And she decided she wasn't moving in. She quit it and got a job somewhere else. And I'm stuck in southern Indiana all by myself. The only friends I had were my boss, Jeff. I ended up being buddies with a guy named Donnie. And that was it. I didn't, messed around, hommed around. I ended up moving out of that trailer and moved in with another girl. Moved out of that place, and actually lived with my mom and dad in Indianapolis while I worked down in Columbus, Indiana. Long drive. Well, I get a phone call from Palmer Dodge. Says, hey, we have this money in this retirement account. You need to sign for it, and we'll give you a check. I'm like, how much? It's like, $4,000. I'm like, right on. I'm gonna buy me a place down here because I like the Country Squire Lakes. It was about 20 minutes from the shop, and I could be on the water on a boat just like that. All kind of lakes and fishing, and I loved it down there. I loved living there. I would love it to this day, except for there's no work, no nothing. So I get to about to buy this little house, and I had already started to seeing another girl. I lost count. Well, this girl was her dad was a friend of my friend Jeff, which was my boss. I was going to go do this side job on this little car, and that's how I met her. Well, the rest was history. And we got married and had 2 kids and a little trailer. I'll show you a picture of them. Cody and Dylan. And we definitely, it's a shame that we split up because of them. Of course, they're huge now. They're grown up and do their thing, and they're mid-20s, 5 and 6 almost this summer, I think. But me and their mom split up, and all hell broke loose. I ended up being the supervisor for maintenance for that area that I lived in, and that was a fun job. I learned a lot. I learned a lot working for Jeff because they didn't have a transmission guy. They didn't have electrical guys and all that. So I was the smartest one working on cars, I guess. And so I learned a lot. I figured out how to work on transmissions, differentials. I learned a lot of wiring stuff, you know, did engine work. Ended up working for Dave Burt because Dave Burt bought Columbus Dodge Nissan out. So I worked for Dave Burt doing rear-wheel drive transmissions. Another guy liked doing front-wheel drive, so we split it up, and that's what I did. And again, I learned a lot there, and ended up quitting there to do used cars at Country Chevrolet. I'll see if I can find a picture of that. It might be kind of tough, and it was all right. I enjoyed working there. It was close to home, but the owner was a dick, completely. I had worked on a S10, put a water pump on it, and the fan clutch, the bolts had backed out. You guys wonder why I put Loctite on everything. The bolts backed out. He was pissed. Oh yeah, he was going to fire me on the spot. But he didn't. So I spent 2 or 3 days, 4 days, putting head gaskets on a dual overhead cam, 3.4 liter Chevy Lumina. Oh my God. Don't buy one of those cars. Get it all done, car's good. Customer comes back and complains about there's bolts missing out of the valve cover. Well, they're painted red. The threads had red paint in them. There were never bolts there. It's one of those Boss things, a bolt that just didn't get used. Well, he decided he was going to write me up for that. I said, no, you're not. He goes, why not? I said, because I quit. He had a look on his face like, well, yeah, screw you, I quit. Not dealing with it no more, you know. There was a lot of other dickheadedness going on way before then, and I was tired of it. Just trust me. I was in my right to quit. So I installed computer cable. I worked for myself. I had a little lean-to garage I'd built next to my little trailer, and, you know, worked for myself for a summer. Ended up going to work at Acura Dodge, whatever it is, in Greensburg, Indiana. Did that for a while, and then I quit there and was supervisor for maintenance for the little subdivision that I lived in, Country Squire Lakes. Fun job, really enjoyed it. But then the wife and I had split up, and I couldn't stay there. It was called up my old buddy Butch White, Palmer Dodge. Hey man, thinking about coming back to Indianapolis. Kind of told him what was going on. He goes, I'll have you back, Mike. Loaded up all my stuff and I left. It was kind of a heartbreaking time leaving the little ones behind. Of course I came back. It's not like I just disappeared. I was in their lives as much as I could the whole time. It's just kind of one of those things. But anyhow, that brings us pretty close to, well, 2011. Started back working at Palmer Dodge again. And I had a new girlfriend. She was a dancer. You guys seeing a trend here? Anyway, next episode we'll get into some of that. It's not pretty. No. Not pretty at all. We'll see you next time. Remember, if it was easy, everybody'd do it.